was like yesterday. I remember standing at my desk, working on a new system, when suddenly the room shifted. It wasn't dramatic at first, but it was enough to make me pause. I stood there, thinking maybe I should just lie down. But before I could fully gather myself, dizziness rushed over me like a wave. I stumbled to my bed and laid down. I tried to calm my breathing, and for a moment, I thought it was passing. Then I felt the urge to use the restroom, and as I sat there trying to slowly inhale fresh air, something inside me knew this was not the same. This was different. This was different from exhaustion. This was different from stress, different from being tired. And I called out to my girls, and everything went black. At Quest Diagnostics 2 days later, they tested my blood. My iron levels was at a 5. A 5. Now you need to understand the normal levels are between 12 and 15. I remember staring at the number, trying to understand how someone who was trying to be healthy could end up at death's door. I ate vegetables. I exercised. I avoided many processed foods. I was trying to do the right things. And yet my body was shutting down. Welcome to Law and Order. I'm Inez Reyes, and this podcast is about the laws that govern our lives. Not courtroom laws, but the laws woven into creation itself. The laws of the body, the laws of the mind, the laws of health, and the laws of God. Because whether we understand them or not, laws will work. They still work. And many of us are not suffering because we are evil, but because we are unaware. The moment everything changed. You know, there's something terrifying about realizing your body has been whispering warnings for a long time, and you didn't understand the language. I must have been tired. But like many women, especially mothers, you normalize exhaustion. You push through. You keep working. You keep caring for everybody else. You tell yourself, I'll rest later. But later never comes. And whether you rest or not, the body is keeping records. And eventually, it begins to collect on its debts. When I understood how low my levels were, fear settled over me in a way I had never experienced before. Because suddenly this wasn't theory anymore. This wasn't another health video online. This was life and death. And this was my life. I began researching obsessively. I needed answers. How could I eat healthy and still be starving my body? How could I be trying so hard and still failing physically? That question became the doorway into a much bigger realization. Sincerity, no matter how sincere you are, does not cancel the law. If a person jumps from a building, believing gravity does not exist, gravity does not pause because they are sincere. And in many ways, I realize our health works the same way. Our bodies will operate according to laws, not trends, not internet opinions, not emotions, laws. The laws we ignore. As I researched iron deficiency anemia, I began learning things I had never truly understood before. Why protein matters, why minerals matter, why absorption matters, and why gut health matters. I learned that I could consume iron and still not absorb it properly. I learned that vitamin C assists with absorption. I learned that digestive enzymes help the body when you're eating healthy foods like vegetables to properly digest. And sincerely, I just learned that my body needed more than just what we call healthy food. It needed a balance. It needed a person who had understanding and wisdom. And honestly, I actually became angry for a while because I realized how much confusion exists around our health. One person says, only eat this. Another says, never eat that. One expert promotes extremes, another promotes restrictions, and meanwhile, ordinary people are just trying to survive, especially women, especially mothers whose bodies are changing and who feel like their strength is slipping away while nobody really explains why. And the deeper I went into this journey, the more I realized something. God really never designed life to function in confusion. He designed it around principles, around order, around laws. The 8 natural laws. There's a concept found in the Ministry of Healing by Ellen G. White, often called the 8 natural laws of health. And these are simple principles, but they're powerful ones. There's nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trust in God. These are not merely wellness suggestions. They are laws that are woven into human design. And what fascinated me was realizing how deeply these natural laws connect with the moral law of God, the 10 Commandments, because both reveal something about the character of God. God is a God of order, a God of life, a God of restoration. Take rest, for example. Our culture glorifies exhaustion. But one of God's commandments literally says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Why? Because rest is not weakness, it is design. Or temperance, for example. We live in a world of excess. We overeat, we overwork, we overconsume, and we overstimulate ourselves constantly. Yet God's principles consistently call us back to self-control, to balance, to order, and to life. And maybe one of the greatest natural laws of all is this, to simply trust in God. Because fear itself will destroy the body. Stress can destroy the body. Bitterness can consume and destroy the body. Hopelessness can destroy the body. And many people today are physically alive, but emotionally, they're just like I was, collapsing. One of the hardest truths I had to face during my health crisis was this. Ignorance did not cancel consequence. I didn't understand what my body needed. But this lack of understanding did not protect me from the results. And spiritually, many of us live the same way. We ignore rest, peace, truth, balance. We even ignore God. And then we wonder why we have anxiety, why we have exhaustion, confusion, depression, and emptiness continue increasing. Well, the law continues working whether we acknowledge it or not. But here's the beautiful thing. The same God who created law also created restoration. When my iron levels finally began increasing, I felt hope return little by little. Nothing of this happened overnight. It was actually a 6-month journey to get my levels back to normal. So it was not overnight, it wasn't instantly, but gradual. I began changing my routines, changing my eating. And at that time, I thought I was drinking more water. We'll find out more about that later. I started balancing my meals, though, and paying attention to what my body actually needed. And I realized something profound. Healing often begins when you understand things. This journey is just beginning. There's so much more that I have to learn and to implement. And so this podcast is not about perfection. It's not about fear, and it's certainly not about condemnation. It's about understanding the laws that govern life so we can stop fighting against the very principles that are designed to help us live. Over the next 4 weeks, we're going to explore these laws together. Obviously, it's going to take a lot more than 4 weeks, but we're going to do an experiment right off the bat for the first 4 weeks. And of course, I'm going to be the guinea pig. We're going to talk about what happens when I give my body all of the 8 natural laws: nutrition, rest, trust in God, temperance, faith, exercise, sunlight, fresh air. and the spiritual principles that many of us overlook. Because there is a connection between physical health and spiritual health. And when either one is neglected, eventually something begins to collapse. My iron levels may have stabilized, but my waistline is still larger than I desire. There's a verse in the book of Hosea that says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." It's not always rebellion. Sometimes it is lacking in understanding. And maybe that understanding is where our healing will begin. Check out my blog at blessedimpressions.com. You will get a front row seat as I implement structured health, mindfulness in eating, and a full breakdown of what I am doing. I'm Inez Reyes, and this is Law and Order.